Jack the Ripper fled London, leaving behind a city drenched in blood and fear. His encounter with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde had been the most thrilling of his life, but he emerged victorious with Hyde's blood on his hands. Now, in the bustling port city of Yokohama, Japan, Jack found solace in the anonymity of the foreign streets. One night, under the cover of thick fog, Jack stalked a young woman through the narrow alleys. The thrill of the hunt, the anticipation of the kill, sent a familiar rush through him. When the deed was done, he stood over her lifeless body, savoring the moment. As he cleaned his blade, a soft sound caught his ear, like a whisper carried on the wind. He looked up and saw her standing at the end of the alley, a woman shrouded in shadows, her face obscured by the folds of a kimono and a long, flowing scarf. The woman didn't run or scream. She simply watched him, her eyes dark and unreadable. Jack felt an unusual thrill. Here was a witness, a potential challenge. But as he stepped toward her, she melted into the mist, disappearing before his eyes. That night, he couldn't shake her image from his mind. Her presence haunted him, an enigma he couldn't ignore. Who was she? How had she found him? Jack's obsession grew with each passing day, the need to find her becoming a gnawing hunger. He began prowling the streets each night, hoping to catch another glimpse of her. The more he searched, the more she evaded him, appearing only at the edges of his vision, a fleeting shadow. But Jack was patient, and he knew the thrill of the hunt well. He was determined to make her his next masterpiece. One evening, after yet another fruitless search, Jack returned to the scene of his latest crime. There, standing in the same spot where he had first seen her, was the mysterious woman. This time, she did not disappear. She waited, letting him approach, her head tilted slightly as if curious. "Who are you?" Jack asked, his voice a mix of fascination and menace. She slowly pulled down her scarf, revealing her face. Her mouth was slit from ear to ear, a grotesque smile that shouldn't have been possible on any human face. "Am I beautiful?" she asked, her voice soft but echoing with an unnatural tone. Jack's breath caught in his throat. There was something about her, an allure he couldn't resist, but also a deep, primal fear. Yet, his obsession drowned out any sense of danger. He stepped closer, his hand trembling slightly as he reached for his blade. "Yes," he whispered, "you're perfect." She smiled wider, her mouth stretching impossibly further, revealing rows of sharp teeth. But Jack was too captivated to notice. Over the following weeks, they met regularly, always in the dead of night. Jack felt something stir within him, something more than his usual bloodlust. For the first time in his life, he was falling in love, or at least something twisted that resembled love. She was his equal, a creature born of darkness like him, and the thought of them together sent shivers of excitement through him. Kuchisake-onna too found herself drawn to Jack. He wasn't like her other victims. He was unafraid, even fascinated by her disfigurement. She watched him with a strange affection, the way a predator might look at a fellow hunter. But every encounter ended the same way, Jack's growing obsession with making her his ultimate kill, and her silent resistance. Deep down, Kuchisake-onna knew what she must do. She had been cursed to kill, to punish those who lusted after beauty or who were tainted by their own darkness. But her feelings for Jack clouded her judgment, making her hesitate. Could she really destroy the one who seemed to understand her so deeply? One night, Jack decided it was time. He brought her to a secluded grove on the outskirts of the city, where the air was thick with the scent of cherry blossoms. As they stood together under the moonlight, he drew his blade, his eyes filled with a twisted blend of desire and determination. "Kuchisake-onna," he said, her name rolling off his tongue like a lover's caress. "I want to see the beauty beneath the mask. I want to know you fully, completely." She looked at him, her heart aching in a way she hadn't thought possible. She had grown to care for him, this monster of a man. But the curse in her blood was stronger than her feelings. As he moved to strike, she whispered, "I'm sorry, Jack." In an instant, she was upon him, faster than he could react. Her mouth opened impossibly wide, her teeth gleaming in the moonlight. She kissed him deeply, their final act of intimacy, and then with a swift motion, her jaws clamped down on his throat. Jack's eyes widened in shock, then pain, and finally a twisted sort of acceptance. He had sought death in many forms, but never like this. As the life drained from him, he felt a strange, peaceful release. Kuchisake-onna held him until his body went limp, tears streaming down her face. She had killed him, as she knew she must, but the pain in her heart was unbearable. As she laid him down gently on the ground, the fog began to roll in, swallowing his body. She stood there for a long moment, her heart heavy with loss. Then, without another word, she pulled up her scarf and disappeared into the night, a shadow once more, leaving behind the only man who had ever truly seen her.